it was described, and is still described, as the most toxic place on the internet, right? And there's some competition for that, isn't there? The backlash over this gossip website, Tattle Life, is something that we have been covering on the show all week. On Wednesday, Lorraine spoke with the skincare expert, Caroline Hirons, about how she'd been trolled on the site. And that's also the experience of my next guest. Goodman was catapulted into the headlines when her relationship with England footballer Kyle Walker was made public. And since then, Lauryn says stories about her on the site have led to her suffering panic attacks and actually fearing for her 2 children that she has with Kyle. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
I know you're quite nervous, aren't you? Because this is your first live interview about something that has obviously blighted your life. This website, I had never really heard of it until this court case this week in which a couple got some compensation from it. But what were some of the worst things, Lauryn, that were being put on there anonymously about you that were total lies?
So there were basically lies saying that I'd been paid by Kyle to go to Hong Kong with him.
As an escort.
Which were complete lies. And then from that, they gave me a nickname and it just kind of went around the internet. Not even just on that site, but it went onto other sites. There was that. There were claims that I had taken drugs and I've never taken drugs in my life. They're, yeah, just awful claims like that. And then I think the worst part was when they started coming for my children and
you say they, I mean, it's just a group of people who are, you don't know their identities, but this website was being run by somebody who was profiting from all of this, presumably, by
so
and so on.
It's now come out that it's been run by Sebastian Bond.
Yes.
Which we knew a few months ago, but we couldn't say.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about, as you say, so these claims about you being essentially a prostitute, absolutely vile, and then they started going for your children and exposing their identities and things like that?
Yeah, their name. So Kanara, my second child, her name, I never told anyone. She was always introduced to people as Kiki. Her date of birth wasn't anywhere, so there was no public record of it, no one could find it. But on this site, her name appeared on there before I'd ever said it.
And what did that make you feel?
Well, you kind of feel... You just feel like your life's been invaded in a way that I understand that obviously people in the public eye put themselves in the public eye, but you have a right to what you put out and what you keep private, especially about your children. So I don't put my children's faces online. And I just felt as though there were no boundaries. They were just doing what they wanted. You know, they're putting people's addresses online. They're putting people's medical information online.
When you say people, yours, you mean?
My address is online, yeah. They don't take them down. They say the site's moderated. It's not. I've had so many messages from victims from getting abused on this horrible hatred site that have said that they've emailed, they've given the threads everything that they need to do, which is what the site claims, you know, that they'll take down. They moderate it, but they don't. And they've been ignored.
And so, presumably it made you wonder who on earth these people were that were writing online about you with private details about you and obviously completely fabricated lies about you. Did it make you feel paranoid in a way about, well, where are they getting this information from?
You start questioning your circle.
Yeah.
You start falling out with people because you start wondering if they're involved. Your circle becomes a dot. You become more isolated.
And you got panic attacks.
Yeah. The social services was the one where the panic attacks really set in because...
Explain what that means, the social services getting involved.
Obviously, you can make a complaint to social services anonymously, and that's the problem, I feel like, because you don't have to put a name to it. And I understand why it's there for people to be able to do that for, real circumstances where it's needed. But for trolls, then using it, in a situation where it's not needed. They're using resources to then investigate people that don't need investigating.
So was that to do with this website?
Yeah, they put it on there. They said, you know, she's going to be getting a call from social services. So, yeah, I've got all of that evidenced.
And clearly, obviously, nothing came of that.
No, but it's embarrassing. I'd never spoken about it before until kind of the community came together recently to talk about their experiences.
The community meaning the victims
yeah,
of this kind
yeah,
of
because
abuse.
you feel embarrassed.
And the truth is, Lauryn, that you... Is it right to say that you're an influencer? That's your sort of job, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
And you lost work because of
Yeah.
the abuse that you were getting, because brands just didn't want to be associated with somebody who might have been an escort, who might have taken
Well, it's
part.
worse than that. They actually go on that site and they all come together to go and contact the brands. And it's not just me. So they'll all gang up in the masses, go and contact the brands. So then the brands go, oh, my gosh, we're getting so much negative feedback from working with this person. We can't be associated.
They cut their losses.
Yes, but really, I feel like the brands need to stand in their power and not enable and empower the trolls, because that's what they're doing. You know, they need to stand firm and say...
Right. And I've got a right of reply from the website, but just to say beforehand that there was a judge earlier this week when this couple got compensation because of the abuse that they were getting on this website. And the judge, Justice McClendon, said a day of reckoning will come for those behind Tattle Life, the name of this website. This is clearly a case of peddling untruths for profit. It constitutes behaviour solely aimed at making profit out of people's misery. So, in a sentence, what's your sort of parting shot to those people who think they can anonymously bring people down like you?
Well, I think they're going to soon find out that they're not anonymous. And Neil and Donna have done an amazing job.
The couple.
Yeah, they are literally heroes. But there's things that people can do if they feel like, you know, they've been abused by that site. They can report to the Independent Commissioner's Office, which is super important, the police, and Lisa Nandy as well. Those things are really...
Right.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much, Lauryn. I know you were quite nervous about coming on this morning, but you're clearly doing it because you feel passionate about nobody else having to go through what you did. I just have to read a right of reply from Tattle Life. They have said that we always have and always will delete anything that's a privacy risk. There is a link on every single page to our takedown procedure. Some may slip through the net as it is user-generated content, but we never have and never will be a site for threatening behaviour. And as I say, it's not just people who are in the public eye, it's small businesses and others who have been targeted.
But I think that I don't agree with that statement.
Thank you so much, Lauryn, for coming on and talking. I hope you and your kids are OK.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for this video. We hope you enjoyed it. We have all the best moments from the show right here on the channel. And if you like this video, then we think you'll love this one. See you next time.